Did you read what I wrote?
Yes, we did. Thank you. That's excellent. Very, very good. You believe. Do believe now.
Yes, yesterday
You know, tomorrow we have a lot of work.
He's created his own world.
Get ready, because he has not had any. He probably didn't have lunch, so go straight. Motivation. Are you next?
No, I'm at 4 o'clock.
Yeah.
Okay. They're gonna start this, and I don't wanna interview. Hello.
How are you?
Awesome, how are you?
Good, I actually want to have a chat to you as well.
Okay.
Brian.
Oh, here.
Nice to see you. You too.
Okay.
You wanted to, when do you have lunch?
No, I haven't. I haven't eaten
Tomorrow,
back yet.
Right. Fast.
But we're all
I don't know, right?
We're all
Okay. Fast, he has not had lunch.
I can't eat very much lunch. Sounds good.
I think today morning I also told him my position is the rate is good. So please call him. That's confusion before.
When we start, she's also really speaker.
There's no point. No, what's the point? I think that thing is do you want the number?
Yes, I'll come. Yeah.
Please get some water.
Yeah, sure.
Next is motivation.
Yes,
What time you start?
No, it's not 50. We are starting. Yeah.
Come from where? She's 19. 19? Yes. I have a 19-year-old daughter also. Oh my god. You try to be yeah, even you look okay. Coach blogger. Yes.
सर एसी का प्रॉब्लम है नहीं स्टार्ट हो रहा है सो वी ऑडियंस आर सेइंग दे कैन नॉट सिट इनसाइड आफ्टर द लंच
That's very bad.
सीरियसली
कुछ तो करना चाहिए.
I thought it was 2:45.
I know. That's what I said. You know it's like 2:45.
All my friends know it's supposed to be 2:45. That's what I gathered. I was told on day 2. You go ahead with it. If they schedule at 1:45, you should do it at 1:45. Anyway.
I was sad. It was she who rescued me. I was standing outside and said, "Oh, my session is 2:45." I told everybody. And then she looks at it and she goes, "No, this is not."
Thank you.
I was just next door.
Thank you very much. God bless you. Thank you.
Showed up.
Yeah. Yes, I just give me a pen drive. Sido थोड़ा
वो पकड़ के लाया खाएगा थोड़ा सा दे फिर लिया फिर भगाया
How may I help you? Can I get it from my mail? Can you get my mail? Thank you.
You try to give a PDF format, please try to be able to present in PDF. You have or some other.
Thank you, John. Thank you for showing up. I'm okay. I'm behind schedule as well. Yes.
The password like all lowercase, WEF 2016.
I'll give you my card right there. Yeah? Can we start off? Talk a little before we get on to the.
Everyone. Okay, good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Slightly rushed because I got the impression that we were supposed to start at 2:45. My mistake probably. I must have looked up somewhere. But anyway, thank you for coming in. Very briefly, before I go into what I have to show you and what I have to share with you, very briefly, When I started working in the area of, okay, before that, a quick introduction. My name is Ayaz Shafi. I work in the area of behavioral skills and training. I run assessment and development centers. I also coach a few senior corporate professionals. That's a bit of background. So when I started working in the area of behavioral skills, I would go through those typical motivation theories, Maslow and Hertzberg and X and Y kind of theories. And I thought that wasn't, there was gap somewhere. And so I had a bit of difficulty explaining it to my audiences, found it very challenging because if I'm not convinced in my mind, it's impossible for me to explain the same to somebody else. So over the last 10 years, I started exploring, started talking to people, started interviewing people, and this developed over the last 10 years. So what I'm going to share with you is a paper which was published last November in the journal, International Journal for Human Behavior in the Social Environment. That's the journal it's been published in. And so far have received very good feedback. We have had a lot of people writing back to us saying it makes a lot of good sense. I'm looking at going further into this, doing a bit of leadership study, shared with Tom on that one, and going into the medical aspect, the hormones, how do they impact your motivation or your behavior. Okay. So if you can go into those slides. It's not opening.
What will do? We'll attach the projector to them.
Very good. Yes, sure.
Sorry for inconvenience.
No problem.
Other things we are able to open, but
Okay, I share with you. I grew up in Calcutta. I am from Calcutta, the city where Mother Teresa worked and did all her great bit of work, service to man. And I grew up watching her distributing food to the poorest of poor on Sundays, on Park Street Crossing, on Ripon Street Crossing. And I grew up watching these ambulances picking up the destitute from the street, taking them to the homes, getting them medical assistance and help, giving them food and shelter. I grew up watching this place called Prem Dan coming up. Prem Dan is a home for the destitute actually. And I used to wonder as a young man, even as I grew older, I used to wonder why would somebody give up on the comfort of her home, come to an absolutely unknown culture, an unknown society, unknown language, different climatic conditions, and live there and do this. I mean, I understand if you're making $1 million, right? And you're doing this, I understand, there's a logic to it. You're making a lot more money, so you're willing to give up on your family, go out of your country, live in a different culture, all that, that's fantastic. But I don't understand this, it's difficult to explain. In the conventional sense, it's difficult to explain. So I used to wonder, how does it work? Didn't have an answer to that. And Maslow's theory didn't help me much. When I started trying to figure that one out, it didn't help me much. And then I also read about people like Mohandas Karamchand Gandhi. And again, I would wonder, why would a man who was in a position to bargain and claim anything that he wanted to when India got independence? He could have been president of this country for life. He could have been the prime minister of this country for life. He could have been the king of this country for all you care. And nobody, believe me, nobody would have objected back in 1947. Nobody would have uttered a word against it. The trouble was between Nehru and Jinnah. And if Gandhi had said, look, I'm putting my hand up, and I'm the one who wants to be the prime minister, probably the division wouldn't have happened. Right? The point I'm making is, the man was in that position. And it's difficult to understand why would he say no. I mean, people die and people kill for those positions. And he still didn't want that position. I also read about, as a young boy, I read about a young prince in the Terai region of Nepal, walking out on his young wife and a very, very young son. Right? And then wandering the country, place to place, looking more like a vagabond, and you won't know why he is doing that. Till the time he comes to Bodh Gaya and attains what he calls nirvana, right? Buddha, the enlightened one. Would you do that? Would I do that? There's a big question mark. There is this temptation once in a while to abandon things and go out, but we don't actually end up doing that. But you look at this, and when you look at a number of such people, a number of examples actually, when you look at that, you try and figure out, why do people do this? Why do they give up on all the worldly pleasure, all the riches, and say, I don't want all this? Now, bring it down to our level, yours and mine. And I say, the time when I come across a needy person, I don't know the person, I just bump into that person. And the person I know needs help. And I dig into my pocket, pull out whatever I can. I remember a particular instance where this young man was lying in the street. He had an accident. I was on my vehicle, on my two-wheeler actually. And then he was lying there, bleeding, and I picked him up, got him onto my vehicle, took him to medical assistance. I had an important meeting, gave up on that one, and did this. You wonder, why do you do that? So the point is this, that there is a very strong spiritual urge from within that gets us to do a few things which is not easy to explain. I mean, if you were to explain it in material terms, in emotional terms, very, very difficult to explain. All that we do, there are times when we do this, there are times when we avoid it. There are times when we say no to it, and there are times when we say yes to it. Then again, I went on and read some more, and I saw this story of this king. You know, I read Linda Goodman. I guess most of us would have read Linda Goodman in college days. I did. Most of my generation read Linda Goodman in college days, right? It was the thing to do. And when I read Linda, I'm a March born, right? And Linda Goodman tells me that I am the ultimate romantic. Nobody can beat me at it. So if I have to make a sacrifice, I'm the one who is going to make the biggest sacrifice for the love of my life. I haven't done any such thing, honestly. But when you look at a king, right? And he says, thank you so much, I don't want the throne, I don't want the crown, I want my lady. It's another story that he divorced later on. I'm talking about Duke of Windsor, Edward VIII. And he was a June born, he was in a March born incidentally, right? And you again wonder, why would somebody do that? And then again, through history, through life, you know a lot of such people who have done any number of things which are purely for emotional reasons. Very difficult to explain and justify in material terms. That's the one we understand most easily these days. At least now we understand that one most easily. So when you look at this, and you look at your own conduct and behavior, and you say, we have okay. Now I just want the pictures to come in so that you can connect with what I'm talking about, right? Now when you look at your own conduct and behavior, I know this little thing that happened to me. My daughter was all of 2.5, and she gets up on a winter night, she gets up at about 2:30 in the morning and says she wants chocolate. Happens. Correct. So she gets up at 2:30 and she says, I want chocolate. I say, okay, let me go down. I go down to the refrigerator, pick up what is available, say, have it. She says, no, I don't want this one. And she howls, she cries. And her mom is angry, right? She says, what the hell is going on? You have this, or you go, right? I'm not giving you anything. So what do? I get up, get dressed. So I get up, get dressed, and I go out, a chilly winter night. I go looking for a shop which is still open to sell chocolates. I get the brand she's looking for. Now you you tell me that you're going to pay me amount X to the power X, and you tell me, go get up, go get a chocolate. I say, thank you very much, not interested. Am I right? Difficult to explain again. Now, when you look at your emotional reasons for doing things, it becomes a little more logical. We can understand that a lot more easily. So we do any number of things for emotional reasons. And as there are these Monday mornings where you get up. When you get up on a Monday morning, you don't want to get up actually, right? Monday morning blues. You actually want to sleep, but you're late, had a late night party and tired, don't feel like it. So you do get up and go. Right? I do get up and gather myself and say, oh, got to go anyway. Because there's something waiting there. And what happens if I don't do it? Well, the amount that is to be credited in my bank account end of the month doesn't get credited. So I do a lot of things purely for material reasons. We would have heard of Alexander Onassis. The man very famously once said, no friends, no enemies, only competitors. That's what I have around here. And this was a classic example of a man. If Mother Teresa is an example of somebody driven by spiritual drive, and if King Edward is an example of somebody driven by emotional drive, here is an example of somebody driven by material drive. He wants to own the world. Right? Now you look at your own conduct and behavior and say there are times when you do things, sacrificing maybe spiritual drive, sacrificing maybe emotional drive, purely for material reasons. Reflect on this one, chew on this one. But does it mean that, we can just go to the next one? The next one. And the next one. And that's the one I was talking about. And when you look at him, he's a man who apparently was driven purely by material. Most of his achievements were in material terms. But that doesn't mean that's the only drive which works for him, and I'll come back to that in a minute. Now, do we do things purely for material, spiritual, and sensual, emotional reasons, or are there other drives as well? Go to the next one, ma'am. Now, I come from Calcutta, and in my city, during the winter, there's a restaurant, Park Street. Park Street is very famous in Calcutta. So, there's a restaurant, Park Street, called Peter Cat, and it sells excellent chilo kebab. That's rice and kebabs put together. Exceptional. If you're going to Calcutta, go to Peter Cat, try chilo kebab. Now, during winters, you'll find that queue where people are waiting for about 3 hours to get their fill, to just get a table. And again, I thought this is very stupid because I wouldn't do that. I wouldn't stand in a queue for 3 hours for a plate of whatever in the world, unless I'm very, very hungry. But then that doesn't necessarily have to be a particular dish. You look at a few actions of your own, and you realize that we do a whole lot of things to satisfy our senses. So if I get to know there's a musical story that happens in Calcutta every year, it's over 3 nights. Starts at 7:38 in the evening, finishes at about 5 o'clock in the morning. People stay up through the night listening to the music. The best of music players go there, Global Music Conference in Calcutta. I will go there as well. And you don't think the man has got to be crazy. Why can't he buy a cassette and listen to it, or CD and listen to it? And people are crazy. People do go in there and listen to it. You are essentially driven by your senses. And you're just trying to satisfy those senses of yours, the sensual drive. So the way it works is this. Can you go to the next one? Michael Jackson is a classic example. Go back. This is a classic example of somebody who was driven by sensual drive, mostly. Not to say that the other drives were not present in him, but he was driven mostly by sensual drive, right? And he ignited that sensual drive further in people. So that's how I'm using Michael Jackson here. Can we go on now? Now this is how it is actually. So you look at yourself right in the middle. This is more like the atomic structure that you could have. I'm right in the middle of it. And I have the 4 drives around me all the time. It isn't as if any one of these vanishes at any point in time. So when you look at Gautam Buddha, it's not as if he doesn't have a favorite dish, which means he's absolutely given up on his central drive. It isn't that he's not attached to, okay, Gautam Buddha is an extreme example, but if I look at Mother Teresa, for example, she had a favorite dish that I know. She had her favorites amongst the sisterhood, right? And she was very particular about the money. In fact, her bankers tell me that Mother Teresa would bargain very hard about the foreign fund that would come into her account and the charges the bank would levy on her. So very, very clear about the monies that was coming. So it's not as if any one of these drives die. It's just that one supersedes the other. Now for people like you and me, for us, all the 4 drives work parallel. So when I get up in the morning and I want my green tea first thing in the morning, that's my central drive at work. I could have tea just like that, but I want a specific brand, a specific kind of brew, right? That's my central drive at work. I gather myself together and I leave for work at about 8:30 in the morning. That's a material drive at work, right? And if my daughter calls me up right in the middle of some work and says, I need to talk to you now, well, I step out. Even if it's an important meeting, I excuse myself, I step out and I say, okay, let me listen to this young lady, whatever she has to talk about. Right? That's the emotional drive at work. Right? And of course, in the course of the day, in the course of the week, month, my lifetime, I surely do a lot of things where there is no material gain, there is no sensual pleasure, there is no emotional satisfaction of whatever kind. So when you look at it from this angle, the whole thing works together. It works parallel. Spiritual, that's the highest one. I rate it the highest because when you're working at that level, the others fall in line anyway. And the central drive is more akin to the animal drive that we have. It's a very basic kind of drive. The problem is this, the central drive, once it is satisfied, it doesn't propel you into any further action. The spiritual drive gets you further, pushes you further, you do a lot more, right? So there's the emotional drive. Material drive has what you call the law of diminishing marginal utility, right? So if I offer you incentive for doing something today, I say you get $1,000, do this month. You go out and work very hard, you get that $1,000. Second month I say $1,000, do this. Trial, but not as hard as you did the last time around. The third month, when I come back to you, you don't even respond to it. You say, it's okay. It's passing. And that's the problem with material and sensual drive. They have limited impact, limited value. If you really have to excel in any area, or if you have to get anybody to do things for you, it has to work in the top 2 areas. The connect has to be much bigger, which is why a lot of us keep talking about the vision and the big goal for the leaders. Right? That's where the connect happens. It happens on a different level. Right? Can we go to the next one? So if you look at this, when I am in a mode, when I'm in the giving mode, when I'm in the generous mode, if I'm looking at Mother Teresa on most days, then this is what her drive structure would look like. The other 3 are weaker now. The spiritual one is stronger. Right? And this has got nothing to do with religion. This has got nothing to do with religious practice. It's not as if when I go to the church, the mosque, or the mandir, I'm high on spiritual drive. No, not necessarily. It is possible that my spiritual drive is high then, but it is not a precondition. Right? The spiritual drive is more about the action, the things that you do. Right? So you have a high intensity spiritual drive in those situations when you're engaging in activities which is not driven by any tangible motive. Sure. Another 3 minutes and we'll be done. Sorry. Okay. So if we go and look at the other 3, next one now, quickly. So with the emotional drive, in family, it works the same way. Right? When I do things for purely emotional reasons, this is how it works. And with the other two as well. And central. Now, there's just one last closing comment. It is up to you to, it's like working on your muscles. So when you work on your shoulder muscle, when you exercise it more and more, they're the ones that develop. The other muscles may not become as strong, which means your shoulders and biceps might look very, very strong in comparison to others. The drive that you exercise the most is the drive that is going to become predominant. And that's how it works. So the reason why Mother Teresa could do what she did was because she was exercising this drive more often compared to the other three drives. The reason that King Edward VIII found it easy to give up the throne because he was exercising his emotional drive far more often. The reason Michael Jackson went the way he did was because he was exercising his central drive much too often. And that's exactly how it works. So you would want to just maybe reflect on this one and ask yourself, which is the drive which is predominant, and how do I harness it? You look at your behavior and conduct, and the reason for doing whatever you're doing, and you find answers. You start strengthening the one that you want to strengthen. Not necessarily that it is any right or wrong to it, but just strengthening the one that you want to strengthen. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Hello, good afternoon. I'm Garima Akhtar. I'm into rally racing, I'm into motorsports. And I started my journey as part of Team Mahindra, and now I'm into Team Mercedes, one of the professional drivers driving for them. I'm also working in a cables manufacturing company. I'm the vice president there. Today my topic I'm talking on is motivation and drives, why we do what we do. You signed up for a fitness class at the gym, so you could lose 5 pounds. You took it diligently, worked hard, lost weight, and achieved your aim. Your sister too signed up for the same fitness class, took it sparingly, went for her sessions at her whims and fancies, and then dropped the class without losing the weight. What motivated you to go to the class each time, participate in the class diligently, and lose weight? And why wasn't your sister motivated to do the same? Theories of motivation try to explain why people do the things they do. What makes one person more motivated than the next to accomplish the same goal? Where does the motivation come from? Is your reward something you can touch, or is it something you can feel inside? Oftentimes, our motivation to do something, run a marathon, read a particular book, attend church, eat dinner, depends on a specific situation. For example, eating many times happens because we are hungry. In most instances, we don't get rewarded for eating. We don't win a medal when we finish a meal at the end of the day, unless, of course, our medal is a piece of cake and we only eat the meal to get the piece of cake. Most of the time, though we eat because the body is hungry, we hope the food tastes good, but sometimes we have to eat just to survive. Sometimes we are motivated to do a task for a number of reasons, and those reasons may vary. We might run a marathon because we want to test our own limits of endurance. That feeling of accomplishment is one we have as we cross the finish line. So we can finish what we can do, and when we set a mind to, no matter how hard. Before we talk about theories of motivation, we have to first understand the meaning of motivation. What exactly is motivation? Motivation is defined as the process of giving someone a reason to do something, or it is the condition of being eager to do some type of work. So when we talk about theories of motivation, we are talking about the theories behind what it is that drives us to do the things we do. Have you ever wondered what motivated the great Nelson Mandela to endured so many years in prison, and still he was the driving force behind the anti-apartheid movement in South Africa. Have you ever wondered about the motivation which drives the soldiers to willingly lay down their lives at the altar of a nation? Let's take a look at some of the theories of motivation. Drive theory, arousal theory, incentive theory, Maslow's hierarchy of needs. Drive theory. The drive theory looks at motivation through the eyes of a biological needs. If our stomach rumbles because we are hungry, then what do? Eat. We may be driven by primary needs that are biological in nature, or we may be driven by learned needs. Clark Hall, who developed this theory, created this equation. Behavior is equal to drive into habit. Of course, not everything that we are motivated to do is based on making us feel balanced. Sometimes we eat when we aren't hungry. And obviously, we don't have a biological drive to purchase a new pair of shoes that we like. We do this because we want the shoes, or we are rewarding ourselves with the shoes with doing something else. So while the theory is a popular one, but it doesn't fit with many situations. The next is arousal theory. This theory of motivation states that maybe we are motivated to do things because doing these things creates a feeling of arousal once they have been done or are being done. In this theory, people are motivated by the excitement they feel when they do particular things, which could explain when people do bad things that create good arousal feelings. For instance, seeking poor relationships because they are exciting, or drinking excessively because of the way it makes them feel. In the arousal theory of motivation, the idea is that each person has a level of arousal to be met, and this level varies from person to person. This is why certain people prefer more intense activities than others. For example, skydiving versus reading. Incentive theory is, in this theory of motivation, people do things because they want to accomplish goals. You might be motivated to run a marathon because you want to achieve a goal of running a certain distance. You might be motivated to finish a college course because you want to achieve a diploma at the end of the class. The next is Maslow's hierarchy of needs. They are as follows: self-actualization, aesthetic needs, need to know, self-worth, love and belonging, safety and physiological needs. Maslow mentioned that physiological safety, love and belonging, and self-worth fell into deficiency needs. The remaining needs were described as growth needs. Growth needs, on the other hand, were needs that once met increased motivation. So now, what is the most effective method of motivation? If you reward your children for doing their homework, they will usually respond by getting it done. But is this the most effective mode of motivation? No. Says psychologist Edward Deci, who challenges traditional thinking and shows that this method actually works against performance. The best way to motivate people at school or at work or at home is to support their sense of autonomy. We are all inherently interested in the world. So instead of asking, how can I motivate people, we should be asking, how can I create the conditions within which people will motivate themselves. Take people enough to take the issue of money off the table and focus on the following three factors that lead to better performance and personal satisfaction. They are relatedness, autonomy, mastery, and purpose. So this is all I want to say about motivation. Thank you so much.
Good afternoon, and thank you for being here. Come up in front. And give yourselves a round of applause for being here. And you've been a great audience. It's not a comfortable hall. I do understand it's a bit hot and warm. So I've been noticing people open the door, feel the heat, run away. But you stayed. You stayed for a reason. You know what your reason is. And what motivates you. Is it motivation that you want to get in touch with? Is it the understanding of motivation that you want to get in touch with? What is it? I'm a writer by profession. I start my affair with language. Started when I was 12 years old. I used to write poetry as a girl. A lonely girl because I didn't have siblings, I didn't have anybody to share my feelings with, so I wrote it on paper. I called them, people who read it said they were poems. Grew up, got busy with studies, got married, stopped writing poetry. What happened then? Did my love for words kind of disappear? Don't think so. Because it went on. And later on in life, I realized I came to a stage where I wanted to do something with my words. I thought I'll probably start a tutoring section or do something at home. And then the doors opened and I found out how to be a writer, a freelance writer. And I still am that. But I like to call myself a wordsmith now because I'm at a different level with my affair and it's really going crazy. I have a blog where I put my quotes in. Please, have a seat. So I put my quotes there because I think words are powerful, they create thought. So in my understanding, and from what I've been listening about motivation, two things drive you. It's either pain or pleasure. I used to write poetry because it was painful for me to be alone. I write articles because it's a pleasure for me to see my byline. And I see myself more driven in that direction because it gives me a kick, it gives me a motivation to do better, to see more of my name there. So what is it that is your pain? What is it that is your pleasure? When you want to lose weight, are you losing weight because you want to look good for a party? Or are you looking good are you losing weight because you want to be healthy? So if you want to lose weight to be healthy, you will continue on that journey of growing, losing, and staying at the optimal level. However, if it's to reach an X level, you kind of lose the drive after you get gotten there. No, it's alright. That was for me. So yeah, you lose the drive. So when do people change jobs? It's either because there's something very lucrative at the other place, or the place that they are in is really, really getting difficult. So is it pain that you want to drive yourself away from, or is it pleasure that you're driving yourself towards? And most often, the motivation stays when you're driving yourself towards something that is more pleasurable, more rewarding than pain, because we as humans have great capacity to endure pain, and we just enjoy being in the victim mode. It's a story. It's a story. We just love our stories. I mean, tell me, if I was lonely, oh God, I wrote poetry. Poor me. Yes. I have had people's attention. Bylines, freelance writer, Ruqayya Khan, in the papers. Not everybody's going to notice, but I notice. People who care about me and are proud of me notice. So that drives me forward. So being a victim is easy, but taking control, moving forward, and taking the risk, I think that takes a lot of God, I'm saying the word motivation so many times and I have to look for something else. But yes, it really drives you forward when you move towards something that you're looking forward to. And that's the thing I'd like to leave you with. What are your drives? Is it something that you're running away from, or is it something that you're running towards? And it's okay if you fall when you run, because you do know that when you were little, you fell a couple of times, but you stood up. Your mom didn't tell you, oh God, this baby's just not going to stand up. She didn't leave you there. Why are you doing that to yourself? You know, these are things that you kind of have to go through. And if that pot of gold at the end of the rainbow is really, really something you want, you go over the rainbow, all over the colors, and get there. And you might get a bit colorful all the way there. Sometimes you'll be blue, sometimes you'll be pink. Sometimes you go green for money. Who knows which color sticks? So I think it's worth a try. No, it's not worth a try. It's worth going for.
Last thing, because that was what the most rushed talks that I have ever been through. So, quite a few, well done, ma'am. That was good. Thank you very much. That was wonderful. But so there are a lot of things that I had to bypass. One of the things that I think is important to bear in mind, and this is with reference to what I was talking about with regard to the drives, they work in tandem. So for you and me, they don't work in isolation. Most of our actions are a combination of two drives, at times more than two drives. So if I want to make a lot of money, it's not just because I'm materialistically driven, it's also because I want to give my family a very happy life. It could also be because I want to contribute to charity and give a better life to a lot of people. So you have a spiritual drive in some way contributing to this material drive of mine, and you have a bit of emotional drive contributing to this material drive of mine. So no drive works in isolation, it's always in combination. I thought this was an important bit, so I point that one out to you. In case there are questions for the ladies or me, please go ahead. Yes, please.
I know we are the women's forum, but my question is there a different motivation for men and for women towards the same goal? I have my doubts.
So is it meant?
Is there a different for anyone? And
Okay.
are we, women or men, motivated differently because of gender? I would love to hear from each of you.
Okay. To my mind, the basic drives remain constant. It's the conditioning that we go through over the years as we grow up that defines us later in our lives. So, and drives are conditioned, usually. You grow up in a very spiritual environment, you're more spiritually driven most of the time. I'm not saying there won't be exceptions, there would be exceptions. So, the way women are conditioned, particularly in societies like ours or in African societies, or even some of the European, Eastern European societies particularly, you'll find that they're conditioned differently. And they're conditioned to believe that they're more emotionally driven than otherwise. Right? Which to my mind is not necessarily true. Probably we men, we want to protect our bastion, so we condition them that way. But I believe that we are all driven in the same manner. We have the same kind of drives. It's just that the manifestation is different because of the conditioning that we go through the years at different stages of our lives. Yeah.
My understanding of motivation, not as a woman or as a man, but as somebody who I am, is we're all driven by trust. And I think that somebody who's driven by trust in self and trust in their circumstances, trust in the people around them, does move a lot further in life than somebody who's looking outward at what's going on. If you do trust yourself, that surely reflects in the way you manage things and do things. And when you reflect positivity, it definitely comes back to you. And if it's not coming back to you, you're probably sitting in the wrong room. There are no mirrors around you. That really means that they can't take who you are. So I think trust is what drives overall.
Anyone?
Come on, come on.
Yeah, sure.
Does your poetry give you pleasure?
Excuse me?
Does your poetry these days give you pleasure?
Power.
Does your
Poetry, yes.
these days give you pleasure?
I stopped writing poetry.
No.
No, really, I love that I did. Because for me, poetry was a place of being sad and lonely, and I'm not anymore. The last poem I wrote was when I was expecting my baby, my firstborn, and that's it. And she came along, and then I went and moved in with my husband, who was at that point in UAE, and that's it. That was the end of my loneliness. No, I'm not saying my parents weren't caring. It's just that I was a teenager at that point, and there were things that I would probably not want to share with them. I lived through the Gulf War, so at that point, that was the point when I actually started writing poetry. So I don't write poetry anymore, but I do write articles, and apart from articles, I've started writing quotes, because I really think thoughts are powerful, and when you read somebody else's thoughts, you also start thinking. So that's my way of expression now.
Tom?
Thank you.
Sorry. Thank you, ma'am. Tom, linking your question with what Alma asked a little while ago, and I think the answer is I also write poetry. and I have written n number of poems in Urdu and in English. And I've never gone to any publisher, I've never published anything. My friends tell me, no money is there. And my friends tell me this is quality stuff, this is good stuff, and they insist that I should go to some publisher. I don't want it to go anywhere. Now she stops writing poetry, I continue to write poetry. She believes that is an expression of sadness, that's what she pulls out. I believe it's expression of self, and that's a conditioning that we have been through. That's the kind of environment that we have been through. She lived through different kind of experiences and environment, so the drive changed. And I lived through different kind of environment and experiences, the drive is different. So probably that would help you connect with that, how women are driven, what kind of drives propel them into action, and how men are driven. Also, another point that a political drive could only equally act as a detractor. So your spiritual drive could stop you from some material and sensual and emotional activities. Right? So it becomes a detractor for the other three drives. If it becomes too strong, it becomes a detractor. So her self-preservation, which could be connected to her emotional drive, prevents her from writing poetry. Right? It becomes a detractor. Her emotional drive is now becoming a detractor for her, stopping her from certain kind of actions. So, I mean, maybe more to reflect on this one. Very short answer, but I think it's more to ponder about rather than giving your reply to your question. Right? In case there are any other thoughts, any other questions, or
I'm sure she'll go back to poetry. There's something you can
I'm sure I think she must, but we will not insist. It's your decision.
No.
As my fellow author says, you speak poetry.
Yeah, she speaks poetry.
Thank you so much.
Your words are very colorful.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
It can be happy poetry. It doesn't have to be sad.
It's the poets in us that are telling them not to give up.
Yes, exactly. Peer pressure. It could be joyful poetry. It doesn't really have to be beautiful sorrow.
Yes, I agree. Which is why I said I write quotes now. I've moved on to quotes. It's one-liners.
Okay.
I still express, and I still express in short lines.
Okay.
But it's quotes, and it's on RK Writes on
The
Facebook.
form.
So yes,
The
I
form has
still
changed.
write.
Okay.
Yes,
Okay.
for myself. Thank you for the encouragement.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Wonderful. We are supposed to do it now if you're
I hope it's
Yes. Thank you so much.
fantastic. I think that should work for us.
We're still on 5.
5. We can make it earlier 4 o'clock.
No, 5 is
Five is
give you a
good.
chance to refresh.
Yes, I have.
Yeah, okay. Sure.
Oh, are you next one here? Can I take one out and? Yeah, sure. Always.
Do you want to tell me this is what
Yeah,
Arabic
this is
looks
my
like?
cousin, my long lost cousin. Really? I know, I'm Mexican, and people always talk to me and I get stopped at the airport. I live by the USA border, and I get stopped. I just wanted to look like that.
I grew up in Texas with Arabic lips.
Yes.
So now your cousin. That's so cool.
Thank you so much. Can I take a picture? You want me to take your picture?
Thank you. I have to finish with my friend first.
Thank you.
And I'll see you at 4. Oh, see, and the reason why I was trying to do is I read poetry. And you may not write it, but you speak it, everything that you say. And your quotes are poetry. No, you'll have to tell me. I don't think I have your card. Okay.
You have a talk somewhere?
No, we have, so is your page on there? Because she's presenting, from,
I have something.
Fantastic. So let me be going.
Which one would you like?
yes.
Tom, catch you again.
This is one.
Yes, thank you so much. Would you like to connect? Would you like to connect?
But I'm like you, I don't call myself that, but I write
Thank you for
all the
the
time.
question. That was very
How are you?
I'll see you at 4. Yes, okay, and I'll come.
It's the other.
So the WEF Science and Spirituality. The other
So are you
one
supporting my
that.
session?
I'm going to do the same. Stupid side. Great.
How'd your thing go?
Good. Oh, really good.
Not very sure. No, you haven't. Have I given you mine? Yeah. I would really wish you to go up and it's written outside and what they don't match. Yeah, I know. They haven't changed it.
Motivation and drive?
It's just got but that is and even the video what motivation? Yeah, that's what the confusion was, you know. Yeah. It was not actually. I'll tell you how this was made like this. See? That was very good.
Hello. I wanted to tell you I'm a writer too.
Nice to meet you. On Tuesday, everybody tells me I think you should write. Thank you.
And if you're ever in the United States, well, I also like I did a writer's retreat before we came here. You went to Berlin, so in Utah, we did something else in service. But I do run primarily in the United States, writer's retreats, and they're very intensive. All your room, I should say, class focus on your work. So,
Let me know about it.
the next one is in June, and then I have another one in November, so I will let you know.
Yes.
You have it.
Yes, I do.
Should we start? Yes, I just was gonna see, because somebody said that it's not on the panel out here.
No, it's not.
How do you feel after all the drumming?
I'll come on 9:15.
Yeah,
Is it going?
oh, yeah.
I will write.
Oh, good.
Are you on Facebook?
Oh, good.
Because I
You need to use stuff. It is now. So,
Shall we start?
but she's the main presenter, so.
Very good afternoon to everyone. Very warm welcome from WEF 2016. Today's session is on convergence of science and religion through art. Our lead speaker is Bharti Sagar. She is artist from India, and Miss Bridget Krug Bush is supporting her in this session. So over to you, ma'am.
Hello everybody. I'm an artist from Bangalore. My name is Bharti Sagar.
It's on.
You'll be happy to know that I've brought images of paintings by famous artists from all over the world. From India, because I was going to call out to artists from all over the world to send me work on my subject, convergence of science and religion. So then I thought before that maybe I should ask my people from my country first and then so I've got a very good collection which I've shown you. I've been dabbling in art actually myself since I was a child, and then I studied fine arts. And so that also I will be showing. And before that, of course, I would like to thank WEF for giving me this opportunity to come and speak here and share my thoughts. Subconsciously, once I was sitting in front of the canvas and I just started making some designs and patterns, and I realized that there was some repeated form in that, and there was some like forms of leaves and symbols and all that. So that led me to study more about it, and I found that there is there are books in which you could come to know about these patterns. They're called fractal patterns, and you find them in on your fingertips, conch shells, on even the pine cones, and sunflower, in the middle of the sunflower, you find the same pattern. So there's a repeated pattern which shows a lot of unity and uniformity. So I just got the thought, why not? There's so much unity and uniformity in nature, so why don't we have that in humanity also? Human beings, why don't we do that? This also. So that's how the thought of one religion came to me, and so that that's the hope that if all the religions could converge, there wouldn't be so many religious wars. So that's just the thought, and the hope that someday that will happen. So I will show you some of my work. This is about women actually being boxed in small, with a lot of restrictions and control from the family to do this or not to do that. Looking at the girl flying freely and all the restrictions she has.
We need a different mic for this.
Hello.
Oh, then you just need to hold it.
Okay. I'm just taking you through my journey. This was right in the beginning when I was starting off on art. Some aspects also dabbled in. Yeah, this is again a continuation of the Boston women feeling this, the feeling that they have. Trying to break open the box. During the tsunami, sometimes a single person took on so many children, often due to the tsunami in Chennai. Innocence. These are mostly worked first with watercolor, then dry pastel, and finally I work with water and oil to give it that texture. I use watercolor, and then first of all, that's how I start, and then I use oil and pastels, dry pastels, and finally finish with water and oil.
to give the texture. This was when we went to Darjeeling, a monastery over there, so I've done a whole lot of sketches. And I've been invited to, which is in Delhi, to do a workshop there, residency for about a month. So that's when I completed those sketches. Mostly about peace and tranquility. I mostly express through art. I'm not very good with words actually. So. So about taking care of each other, the environment, nurturing the nature and things around you. Conversation. Interaction between the animals and basically our pets. Some vision. There are all kinds of dreams and vision. These are from my husband's book, illustrations for his book, called 6 Words. It's about new physics, and science and religion, again, the same topic which I am carrying forward now. Some pottery and that would mural. It's huge. Yeah, that took 3 months. It's in a reception area of some company in Bangalore.
How big is it? How large?
It's 10 feet by 5 feet.
And the one you have on your wall?
Yeah, that is again 8 by 9 feet. My idea was to that we should spread this idea of one religion, religions converging. So I got in touch first with artists in India before I got out to the artists of the world, because I know everybody's watching this. So to come forward and spread awareness about how important it is to have unity and not all this disparity due to which we are having these religious wars. So I first got in touch with the artists, the leading artists in India, and to send me work which was connected with my topic. So, and I got a very good response. They were very gracious, and I'll just show you their work.
John. She's now 80. She's very famous in India. Das has done. He's a leading artist. He did this in Bhopal, but ignorance was brought up over there. Basically believe in the same things, the same principles. It's only later on people for their own personal times they just misinterpret it. That's all why all the clashes happen. Buddha, Christ, and Krishna. They're all same mind. They're all incarnations basically. Like the ones we have and the rosary, and I think there's another one over there. Some Muslims use that. Again, there's a fractal pattern over there. We'll be talking more in detail about patterns. This is a famous celebrity of Raghu Rai. There's some rituals which have a lot of meaning now, even through science we find. This one is about water, and Bridget is going to tell you more about water, how effective that can be. That's very, very interesting. A young promising artist who's done this work. the prism absorbs all those different lights and gives out one single light. The same way it can be with religion also. Sima Koli. So these are various forms of Vishwarupa, different avatars. Use the color green, which is for peace and peace and solace. Experience almost that they've died and they come back. So whether it's a Muslim or a Hindu or whatever caste or creed, they all see the same light and reflect the same. They all tell the same story. Now, I would really wish that more and more artists all over the world would come forward and spread awareness, not necessarily painters, maybe by performance art or theatre, music, poetry, anything, and bring it out in the open and spread the awareness. Heroine. It's a personification sort of.
Well, hello everyone. I'm so glad to see you here today. And as Bharati mentioned, very honored to be at the Women's Economic Forum and to have the opportunity to speak with so many beautiful women and men from around the world. So Bharati is a world-renowned artist. And I was very honored that she would ask if I would share a few thoughts as well. Here we have an Indian perspective, and we have an American perspective, and then we have a million perspectives here in between. But I did love the things that she had to say about how much turmoil has been created by religion and how science is bringing together a new language to talk about things that have been in mystery for so long. And that there are still beautiful mysteries to be solved. But if we were able to come together to do it in a different kind of way, in a peaceful and joyful way could be really beautiful. I'm going to try this other mic. Is it coming out okay? I keep hearing a kind of, is this better?
Yeah, much better.
Okay, great. All right, so I reached out to an artist, Cap Hawkins, because I don't have the background, but Auntie has. But I love symbolism and mandalas. And in the things that I teach my authors and also high-spirited women leaders has a lot to do with the stories that we tell ourselves. And so if you'll forward the slide, I have a few books that have been on transformation, and an underlying theme has been spirituality versus religion, that deep inner core of what happens to a person when they transform. Some people have said that religion believes in keeping you from hell, and spirituality is for those who've already been there. So if you've already been there, you recognize that perhaps your spirituality runs deeper than what your religion does. And when we get in a setting such as this, that's so beautiful, so many backgrounds and walks of life, we begin to see how much we have in common rather than how different we are. So the very first speech that I ever gave was at Utah State University when I was studying. It was called Islam, Christianity, and Judaism, the Genocide of Three Sisters in Faith. Not knowing that I'd be standing here before you today to be discussing some things on the same topic. But religion has created the most turmoil and the most genocide than any other topic on the planet. In fact, the day that our group, we were on an inspired writers retreat that I was giving before we came here. And the day that we went to Agra to see the Taj Mahal was a beautiful and hot day, very hot day. But there were two students that lit themselves on fire in a religious protest. One was Buddhist, one was Hindu. They were in love and not allowed to marry. And in protest lit themselves on fire and gave their lives for that. So at some point in time, as humanity, we get to learn a lesson. At some point in time, we get to see how beautiful our differences are, but how important it is for us to come together in, as Bharati was saying, the one God. And we have different eyes to see that God. And what's amazing about it is that we will open each other's perspectives to a larger and grander view of God, in my opinion. And we're also, we'll be welcoming lots of comments from the audience because we recognize that we are two, but together we make a beautiful mosaic. Go ahead and put the slide. That's my logo for Inspired Legacy, and it's about the phoenix rising from the ashes. Because you see, at one time I had a very intense near-death experience, and that's why religion and spirituality are so important to me. As Bharati pointed out, when people go to the light, it is the same light. And when I came back from that experience, I saw that same light in every person's eyes, no matter where they came from. Go ahead. And this is just part of my organization called She Rose United. I'm the executive director, and this is some of the light we've been able to share. Will you do one more? This was our group at the Parliament of the World Religions, and the reason I want to share with you why this is so important to me, especially for women, was because I got to address a group of women not very unlike you from around the world, and we were talking about something very intense and beautiful. We were talking about a woman and her body and how important it was to stand in your own power. But I also had this discussion because in Jerusalem at one time there was the great Temple of Solomon. And it was so great and so mighty that the actual presence of God was said to reside in this temple. And then the temple was destroyed. And since that time, there have been other temples built, but none were as great and mighty to where only Shekinah, or which is the breath of God, could reside in a temple. And I said to those women from around the world, I said, how many of you feel like this temple has been desecrated to where you don't deserve the actual presence of God? And almost every woman raised her hand. And that's when I said, something gets to shift within women. Something gets to shift within humanity where we say we are all each special and precious and amazing. No matter our religion, no matter our background, and especially no matter what has happened to us or for us. And that it's time for us to step up. And I really believe that, as Bharati has mentioned, this concept, it's going to be up to women to bring the openness into the world. Men have historically brought about safety for their families, and women have brought about openness in communities. And so it is our time. Go ahead. That's my Feisty Goddess program for high-spirited women leaders. Go ahead. So this is one of my favorite spiritual scientists. How many of you know who this is? Albert Einstein, yes. And do you know what he said about religion and science? He said that religion, no, let me change that. He said science without religion is lame. And religion without science is blind. So he recognized the importance of that. And he also believed in the mystery. He believed there was spirit and intuition, and he believed that the mystery was part of the connection between God and humans. And some of the things that I'm going to share with you that some different scientists have discovered, a lot of it has been on accident. They've been looking for one thing and something else comes into their space because it is from a divine source. So the first time when he was 4 or 5 years old, his father gave him a compass. And he was mesmerized by true north. And that's when he realized that something deeply hidden must be behind things. And he kept that with him for his life. So again, this is Kat Hawkins, and she created this beautiful mandala. How many of you have noticed the mandalas here in India? Just striking. How many of you have started coloring mandalas at home? Yeah, it's becoming quite a thing. Mandalas have been used for centuries upon centuries. And an interesting thing has been discovered, that some of these mandalas have actual resonance with tones. So how many of you are familiar with Om? Yeah. Go ahead to the next one. So Om, this is the Sri Yantra mandala. It has been around for thousands of years. And it is artwork that was created to represent Om. Guess what happens when you Om on a tonoscope? Can you see that exact same pattern emerges? Thank you, Katie Jo. How would you know? How would the artists or the scientists of that day know that the exact same frequency would create that pattern? And as our friend was discussing with us, there are geometric shapes and there are mathematical equations that help to define nature, and also in a conch shell and other things that show geometric proportions. So when you look at a conch shell, there are actual geometric patterns that take place in that shell, as well as in flowers and pine cones and all other organic organisms. Same thing from your elbow to the tip of your middle finger, inside of your ear. We are not accidents. We were deliberately created. This is another one of Kat's mandalas, which I love. What does it remind you of? A spider web, yes. What else?
Flower blind.
A flower and a snowflake. Isn't that interesting? If you take a look at it, it gives you this reminder of all of these things. Go ahead. So this snowflake is representative of you. You are as unique as a snowflake. And they have never once discovered a single snowflake to be exactly like another. But there are some incredible properties of water. And what I'd love to share with you is I've just been doing some additional research. Did you know that there are 42 religions that have holy water? It's not just a Catholic thing. It's not just an Indian thing or a Protestant thing. 42 religions have a sacred bathing place, have sacred rituals, have sacredness having to do with water and the healingness of water. And now all of a sudden science is beginning to catch up. Go ahead. Holy water is more scientific than religious, they're thinking. Would you forward the slide, please? So here are 4 scientists or researchers that have done some pretty amazing things. One of my favorite is Dr. Masaru Emoto, and he's Japanese, and he discovered when he brought in little school children and brought them before droplets of water with names on them, like love, hate, joy, sharing. And he would have them read that and put their emotions towards it. Then they would go and freeze those molecules. And amazing things happen. You can keep it on there for a second. Oh, yep, just like that. Will you show them for a moment? Go forward. Forward a couple. Keep going forward. One more. Right there. So these are some of the things that he discovered. And what's interesting is that he did one for Hitler. And the amazing thing is it turned out beautiful and magnificent. Because Hitler was a creator. He was also a destroyer. But he was a creator. And also those Japanese school children did not have the emotional pull that as adults we understand more about Hitler. So when he had adults do Hitler, there was a total different reaction in the water. But an interesting thing is too, if the children said, I hate you, or I will kill you, the water molecules wouldn't form. And they discovered that when a priest or a holy person puts a blessing on the water, that the water molecules actually change. And there are now priests and others who are going to water sources around the world and they are blessing those water sources. Would you do a previous? Before that. 2 before that. Right here. So Luc Montagnier, he's a Dutch Nobel laureate, and he discovered that water has a memory. And I've got some pictures of him. But what they discovered is that they took water from the beginning of the Rhine River, and then they took water from the end of the Rhine River, that there was more information in the end of the Rhine River water than there was at the beginning. So as water falls and goes through a distillation process and ends up pooling somewhere, has information. But as it flows and as it comes into contact with any living being or creature, it pulls up more information. So every time a flower is dropped into water, that water takes on some of the imagery and memory of that flower. When you change out the flower and put a new one in, the cells of the water will change to reflect that new flower. It's amazing. And then John Clanzius, he's a US cancer doctor. Remember I was telling you about the accidents? So he was trying to split salt water, and he discovered that he actually could set salt water on fire. This is a brand new discovery, just happened within the last 6 months. So amazing things are happening. We could use salt water as fuel. But we also have to think of the ramifications of using salt water as fuel. And then Victor Schoberger, he's a German natural scientist and forester. And do you know what he discovered? He has worked on flooding throughout different countries. And you think of the tsunamis and some of the other areas that we've struggled with. But especially where riverbanks get eroded and the water goes out. Like in India, we were up in Bhimtal, and there's areas where the monsoons will take out entire areas if they don't have the riverbanks all solidified. What he's discovered are those geometric principles. So instead of trying to create concrete or steel structures that force the water to go a certain direction, if you allow the water using those other geometric, the Fibonacci sequence, and allow the water to spin as it flows down the river, it will not damage any of the banks. So there's some amazing things we're discovering. Go ahead. And this is the German research, or the Dutch researcher that I was telling you about. So these water cells actually represent 4 different individuals. So let's just say I took this water and I gave each one of you a droplet. Just by being in your presence, just by merely having you as an electromagnetic field, the water would be different like the snowflake for every single one of you. Every single one would be different. How cool is that? So now you understand why she was saying that water may become a new religion. And I think as we begin to study more about the aspects of water, one of the things that one of the physicists was saying is that water does not follow any of the prescribed rules of every other element on the planet. It's like it has its own mind. It has its own intelligence. Go ahead. And what's really cool is for us to think about, we are made of more than 78% water. So if just being in your presence can affect me, here's my new friend, and just being in her presence affects me. And when she uses kind words, and when she has kind thoughts, and when her prime wave of energy goes out, it affects the cells of my body. When I use kind words about myself, it affects the cells of my body. So imagine what you could do to change your own DNA. Imagine what you could do to change your own body dynamic health and systems. We're just starting to discover this, but it's fascinating. Go ahead. You can go ahead and go past this. So this is my friend Travis Jessup. I'm just going to have him stand so you can see him. So Travis and I are working on a book, and he brought a significant amount of information to me about water as well. I'm just going to paraphrase. He grew up in a very strict fundamentalist religion, and he had certain beliefs about God and about himself. And then he had a really tragic situation happen where right in front of him, he lost his 2-year-old son. And he saw it happen. And it made him rethink everything he'd ever been taught about God and religion and the light where his son was going to. But he was grieving. He was angry and frustrated and upset. He was also bankrupt, and he needed to create money. So he did what a lot of males will do and what a lot of females will do when we're in our masculine, and that's like, I gotta go make money, right? So that's what he did. He went up to North Dakota, even though he was a contractor and at one time had built a multi-million-dollar company. He went up to North Dakota to work in the fracking fields. And the reason this is important to this talk is because he used chemicals provided by his company in this truck to push and force chemicals down into the earth so that the oil could come back up. But what it created was the water became toxic and radioactive. And then he saw that it was being dumped in different areas close to farms and other things. Still, he had to make money. Still, he had to take care of things. So he's out in North Dakota, and the most amazing thing happened when he was out there by himself, and he was grieving for his son. He'd always been taught that there was only a male deity, and there was a female presence that came to him and wrapped her arms around him and loved him and helped him to heal. But she also said, you are raping my planet with your chemicals. You're taking a life-giving substance. Think about water, how much we need it right now in this hot room. You're taking a life-giving substance and you're making it a life-taking substance. So we have some things to consider environmentally with science. Like Albert Einstein said, religion without science is blind. There was a Native American who was an Indian chief and very, very wise. And his people in a mine nation were overrun by the whites and almost decimated. And he said this, be careful where you walk and place your footprints upon the earth, because you are walking upon the faces of your children. So we have a responsibility for what it is that we're creating on this path, with our water, with each other. And so, go ahead. Jesus Christ in John 14:12 was a great master, and he said, these things and even greater shall you do. And he was talking to all of us. The next one, please. And Rumi, a great Indian poet, said, observe the wonders as they occur around you. Don't claim them. Feel the artistry, just like Bharati's work. Feel the artistry moving through and be silent. Don't grieve. Anything you lose comes round in another form. And I love that. And we would just now like to open up time for your discussion, your thoughts, your ideas on science and spirituality and conversion and art.
Anybody have any questions or comments?
I've seen the molecules. Has anyone seen the molecules of sand? Sand particles, each particle, looks like a shell or a conch shell or different. I've been getting those mails. It's amazing how the small particles have their own shapes, different shapes.
Thank you very much for my good presentation. But I would like just to make a small and fine point, because I'm hearing people speaking about spirituality. And spirituality is not, I'm not saying something you haven't said, but I'm emphasizing what you are saying. It's not something about idea and the intellect. It's not about something that we understand, but it's something about how we live. And art is not also magnifying or reflecting ideas, but because it comes from the depths of the heart, then it represents something that we share even without words. So it conveys and delivers messages that make us feel that we are really human beyond our body. That's what I would like to share.
I love how she said,
Thank you very much.
magnifies That's beautiful. Thank you.
Just as Mridula said about particles, actually a single particle can completely, there are little particles in the ponds which you find, and they call it permesium. And they can maneuver, they can protect themselves from predators, and they can take proper care of themselves, and these are just single particles. I want to tell you your works are beautiful. Your works are beautiful. Thank you. And Bridget, thank you again. You always inspire me. You caused me to have another aha, that I just love how inspired this convention has been. And just the fact that it keeps coming around and around again, that we're all so connected. And that I've spoken about our project so much that you're probably nauseated and sick of it, but I think it's interesting that the project, the Statue of Responsibility, is a piece of art. Do you realize that? It's a sculpture. It's an icon. It's
stands for something, that represents something that's so spiritual. And it does affect our understand. When I consider science and religion, to me they actually have the same purpose. And that is to explain the unexplainable. And so I see them both as synergistic, as symbiotic, one supporting the other. And for so long we have thought science, which is masculine, and art, which is creation, which is considered feminine, that they have been at war, just like the masculine and feminine at the beginning of this earth. And as we begin to recognize that they are actually yin and yang of one, that they complete one another, and that they support one another, it's also reflective of the yin and yang and the support that we have as women and men on this planet. And like Lisa was saying about her statue, what I do is teaching about sound, but it's mainly frequency. Every single thing has a frequency. Science can show you the frequency. Art pieces have a frequency. And just like the statue standing as an emblem in the world, the frequency of that is connection. People uniting beyond borders, beyond agendas, beyond religion, the code, the strength of one grasping another and saying, let's go. As humanity, let's take a step forward. I'll be with you, you be with me. Believe as you will, I'll believe as I will. But we can step forward together.
I discovered something when Katie Jo was kind enough to send over that poem. I was doing some additional research, and you know how Bharati showed the prism of light with all the colors? And you know, all colors together become white. All sounds together become Om.
What I was thinking about is the quantum field, and what we understand about the quantum field is that we are always part of the experiment that's happening, that's in motion. And when you think about that in terms of fracking, for example, where you think about that in terms of this gathering right now, we are both experiencing and creating always at the same time. Our experienced world is always a combination of both things happening at once. Our consciousness of that is the thing that we have the ability to do something about.
Yeah, I'd like to talk about the art that nature has given us. And as a nutritionist, I would like to ask everybody a question, that each of you live in a different region, different country, maybe different city, or a society, or a little house. If I had to ask each one of you a question, in your garden or in your area where you live, how many flowers are there? Would each one have the same answer? How many leaves in that garden? Would everybody, what are the kind of leaves? The same question, suppose I have to ask you differently. If you have a water, a pond in a lake, how many kinds of fishes, reptiles? So this is what art is to me. Whichever way, nature has given us abundance in colors, combinations, species. And one great way to energize the water is through the natural sunlight. We are slowly having mineral water, and we're getting dependent on mineral water. We try and have the natural spring waters in your area, because the natural sunlight, what it does to that is going to give you the energy that is closest to your human body. That is an advice I would like to share with you. The second thing, just like you have in your area, geographical condition, some plants which are grown naturally. Do me a favor, when you go back home or wherever you travel, try to in every meal incorporate all kinds of colors in all your meals. If you can't do anything else, this helps you to get back a little bit of imbalance that is caused in your health. For example, you have red, yellow, green in vegetables, fruits, dry fruits. Now let's see, suppose you have dry fruits. You have almonds, which are brown, you have pistachios, which are green, you have cashews, which is white. Okay, so I'm just giving you an example. So every single food group, just like in the flowers and reptile, you have an abundance of colors. Try and in every meal that you eat, have more colors. And that is the essence of sticking with nature. Try and have as much of natural water as you can, and that will help you. And let us make our bodies artistic, our health artistic, and let's live with the abundance of nature and enjoy that.
And one thing that Travis taught me is to always bless your water before you take a drink.
I want to add one comment, okay? In speaking on terms of, or on behalf of Mother Earth, I just want to make us all aware that all of the fossil fuels that we consume, the water that we use in the production processes, I know firsthand, like Bridget said, essentially I was raping the water of its life-giving source. It was something that gave life until I put chemicals in it, and from then on, it's mildly radioactive. It no longer has the ability to give life, but it takes life. So, I don't know the answers to this solution, but just making us all consciously aware, we only have a certain amount of water on this planet. We're not going to get new water. Nobody's going to show up and say, since you destroyed all the water, we're going to give you new water. Yeah. So, I guess I would like to make us all present on behalf of Mother Earth and the animals that don't have a voice. What are we doing to become part of the solution to bring that into balance, to create sustainable energy that doesn't take life, that doesn't rape the ecosystem? What's that?
Rainwater harvesting is becoming very popular. Do it. You can actually, if you have a high-rise building, you can actually use tanks above your terrace, septic tanks, and you can harvest the water to that depending on what is the capacity. That is one way. Most land that is close to the coastal areas, if you dig bore wells, which are wells, in the olden days you had, that technology, in India we're using a lot of it for agriculture and stuff like that. In fact, we have a weekend home complex of about 50 cottages, and we have dug a bore well, so we're self-sufficient. We don't need to depend on the municipal water. We don't need to depend on the lakes. So yes, there are ways, and there are people who are working in water conservation and who help you to come. And it's not a very expensive thing. The water pumps cost about 40 to 60,000, depending on the pumps, and you can dig it up to 100 feet deep. And most areas, motherland, has enough water at that 100 feet deep level, especially if you're staying near coastal areas or you have an ocean around. It's only a problem in very arid land, like the deserts, or the very rocky mountains where you can't find the water because of it's rock, it's pure hard rock. And that's the difficult area. But if you really look around your farmland, you can have sprinklers put and you can dig bore wells, and then it can supply your entire field of water, and even societies at large.
She was going to make a comment similar to Katie Joe's, but it's interesting how now science is proving something that spiritually we've known for so long, which is that we do have things with frequencies such as chakras and the light, and our thoughts now can be measured.
And one of the things that I love about this conference is that all of our energies and our thoughts are coming together. And when you look at two people's auras come together, you would expect maybe 1 + 1 = 2, right? But when you have two auras that come together, 1 + 1 = 4. So think about the amount of people that we have here and the influence and frequency that we are now spreading out to the planet. So I'm just so honored to be a part of this, and thank you so much for your presentation.
After reading about this Masaru Emoto's experiment, I tell everyone to bless the water source from wherever your water is coming from, or wherever you are storing your drinking water. So that will change the molecules and that will have a good effect on you. And before I knew about Emoto, my husband was lying on his deathbed. A psychic girl who was working on him, he told us to keep 2 bottles of water on the dining table with just labeling them with thank you. I didn't understand what it meant, but now I do.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, Bridget, for this. I forwarded it to my son.
Thank you everybody for coming. Thank you.
They don't want this anymore. You know, happily. Good, start to carry them back.
What room are you, Brad? Here. Oh.
Let's see if one picture on bag and
It's different outside, but I'm in here. I would necessarily check. It's an hour, yeah. I'm the second person. My what? The cottage industry. Awesome. Oh. Not India. Funny how that works. Sure. I can show you. And I have it set. I'm not the lead speaker. So you can do right now? In here. Oh, it's on here. I'm the second speaker. Well, you know, I don't worry about it anymore. Every time I get my hair cut, There's 46, because right now it's about 24. Water room up to 26. So beautiful. I love your
Where did we go? The privileged runs.
Yeah, that's true. So am I.
I'll be right Good, it was nice. Are you guys leave now? Are you gonna leave?
Oh, no.
It was good that you got to Last week all about exchange.
Seriously, I don't realize. No way. Sure. I'm the second. I'm fine. I'm fine. Beautiful area. My brother lives my family in San very much. Yes. Yeah, they went to confirm that we're here, and I know that we're here at the life they changed it. I had to go out and I realized the role topic outside but
I just tell mine, and I say, like you're delivering. We got lost this
And we're filming right after. Anybody that says, where are we filming? The end of this hall, right where the hall turns. We're in there. Well, I
We got out yesterday, which was good. We took a little break.
No.
On the outskirts, we went
I forgot to give you a card.
Life experience. Yeah, because
we had our driver take us there. I threw several network meetings. It was really hard to find information. It was very secretive of where you guys
Yeah, you just had it done too.
Finally reached the director and stuff. So we were able to
Yeah, I'm sure there is. What's the meaning? Meaning? What does it mean to you? Just like the style? And it's cool. I like it.
I think one of the things that it's hard to make that transition of like being in the same place and then somehow having to go out and face the world. It's part of your life. We've got to have for several years. And bridging that gap of how I can bring projects in. And I can say, sorry,
Should I just purchase the concern that will bring in money to the state with and then bring it to the studies? There's some companies I know back in the US that are very passionate about how to have organizations that are for-profit companies. So maybe we could create jobs. So that was okay. I was very happy to do that yesterday. I know I probably wasn't very good. Yeah.
Now you and Travis are best friends.
Good. We've been talking to the director. She didn't even know there's an organization that's out there. And so I asked her what the process was for them to get the girls into the Liquor Center. And she said the police officers are the ones that decide kind of where they're going to go. But it was good to create the link. She said sometimes they hear about situations where they know of something that's happening and the girls find out. And they used to do rescues on the phone. And the girls with the director that originated, she used to go, she's getting old. She used to go and do, she's let her know. And I said, well, now you have a resource. And she says, we don't do as many hearings anymore, but we'll find out about different. So I said, let's get you connected. You can at least get the information to somebody that can take some action depending on where they're at, where they're doing.
All right. Let's talk about that.
Can you have an electronic photograph of it so I can take a picture of it? Would that work? I gave all my first pictures. I should have brought more. So I had the guy that I'm traveling with for 12 hours. In the car. Her name is Kim Giles.
Hello. Good evening, everyone. Shall we start the session? Good evening, everyone. Very warm welcome from WEF 2016. Today's session is on the game of life. Why do we play it, and do we have a choice? Our lead speaker is Ms. Mia Sai. She is CEO of Sai Foundation. She's from USA, and our panelist member are Brain Tron. He's author and speaker from US. Thank you.
Thank you. Hello everyone. I see such beautiful faces, happy faces, and that's what we want, right? We all want to be happy, yeah? So I would like to thank you very much for taking out this precious time to be here today, because fleeting moments pass into infinity, and we want to spend our time in the best possible way as possible. So I would like to just start with a short, like a 1 minute, not a meditation, but I just want you to go within a little bit. So I would like you to start with the Om 3 times. Those who know it can chant with me. And then I'd just like you to just breathe deeply, and then we will go into the situation. Okay? So are we all ready? Sit up straight. Close your eyes. Yes, wonderful.
deep breaths. And as you take a breath in, please bring in beautiful, pale pink light into your heart center. Breathe in the pink light. That light is of unconditional love. We are unconditional love. God is love. And love is the God glue that keeps us all together. So let's bring in this God glue of love and fill our hearts with it. Bring it in. Breathe it in. It's all around you. Breathe. Beautiful. Wonderful. Fill the whole body, your whole body now, with this beautiful pink light like a cloud spreading into every part of your body. Just relax. Let go this 1 hour. Just let go of everything. Just feel the love. Be love. And now, this pink light, send it out. Send it out into this room, to everyone sitting here. Send it out to the universe, to the galaxy, to nature, the sun, stars, to your friends, and mostly to your enemies, people who don't like you, because they need it the most. Send it to them, help them. Now, bring it back into your heart center. Slowly open your eyes. Let us feel the love. Thank you. I would also like to thank the All Ladies League organization, and especially Vinay Rai and Harbin Arora, for making it possible for all of us to be able to come together and share and interact with each other on such a large scale. Please give a big hand of applause for Vinay and Harbin. Thank you. All right, let's begin. So our topic here is the game of life. The game of life. Why do we play it? Do we have a choice? So let me first ask you to ask yourself, why did you come here for this talk? Ask yourself, did you have a choice? Well, you may change your answer by the end of this. Okay? Alright, so why do we do anything anyways? Why do we do anything? Well, I too had these questions. Till by a stroke of divine grace, it so happened that I was allowed to experience the answer. I'm very happy to share with you today a short synopsis of this experience when I died and went on the other side, and how it completely changed my life and living. You know, this basic experience of birth and death is not just mine, it's ours. We all go through it. We've been through it so many times, but we forget, and that's the game. Because if you remember, it wouldn't be a game, you see. So, the other thing I want to say is that when we book this ticket to come into Earth, it comes with a return ticket. You cannot have a one-way ticket when you take birth. You have to go back. It's like when you go on a vacation, you go to Hawaii, you book your ticket, you don't book a one-way ticket. You gotta go back home. So where is home? Life is not home. Life is just a vacation. It's just a game. Enjoy it. Play it. Don't take anything too seriously. Because it changes like this. You know? The good and bad, it's just passing clouds. They come and go like day and night.
Let me just begin with the experience, and then I can share with you how I came to realize that it is a game and why we play it. So, I was having my, I was born in India, but in 1972, I went for a holiday to the US, to New York, and I opened a garment business, clothing business in New York on Broadway. At the age of 24, I was the CEO of my own business, and it was going very fine, etc. And then after that, I decided to change, and I went to California, and I became a very successful financial advisor, almost the top 3% of the country. So I was doing extremely well, high-end lifestyle, Mercedes cars, convertibles, you name it, everything. And then all of a sudden, when I was on a real high, happy, I was driving my convertible one day, went to LA with my secretary, and boom, I had a very fatal accident. I won't go into details because we don't have that much time. But I had an accident, and it was instant death because I wasn't wearing a seatbelt. I will share with you what happened to me, and it may resonate with you because, see, you've had these experiences coming and going many times, and so, something over there will ring. So anyway, as soon as my body lifted and hit the windshield, and I blanked out completely. It was complete instant death. But I found myself in the light. I was inside my body. My body was filled with a brilliant, brilliant light. And I was also a little like a nucleus. I was also this little light traveling inside. And I was like, I could see myself as this little nucleus of light, but I could also feel what I was feeling. So it was the dual feeling. And then again, it was moving very, very fast from my navel towards my head. And at the same time, it was very, very slow. So you see, it's only in time that we have this duality. When we're outside of time, I was outside of time then, you see? Because when we're not in our body, there is no time. We're not bound by time. It's just vast. It's just timelessness. And so there was no duality again in the fast and slow speed. So basically, I found myself traveling at this fast and slow speed and boom, going up, and all of a sudden, right out of my head, top of my head, I just, like you're on a roller coaster ride, and sometimes you're like coming down the roller coaster ride, there's the dip, and then you go, that feeling you get in the dip, that's like, oh, and boom, I was out. And as soon as I was out, it was dark, completely dark. Because now I was out in the worldly dark, so to speak. It was just a void, we say shunya, 0 point. I was out in the dark, in the void, and confused. I didn't know where I was, what was going on. I was like, what is this? Where am I? I could see nothing, nothing. All of a sudden, right from the distance, way from the dark, I saw this vehicle-like thing coming towards me. It was a pale golden yellow, kind of a half-cut papaya, if I may give that example. Anything like a half-cut thing. And it had this, this space in between, which was filled with this brilliant light. And I can maybe explain it as, like 1,000 diamonds shimmering. And there was like a body, there was something lying on this vehicle, and it was wearing a very pale golden gown kind of a thing. And was coming towards me. I was like, wow, it's such a magnificent sight. In the dark, you can imagine, it was beautiful golden and brilliant white. And as it was coming closer and closer and closer, it came like right here. And as soon as it came close enough for me to look, I saw, and I got the shock of my life. Because that body that was lying on this vehicle-like thing was me. And I said, oh my God, I'm dead. That's when it hit me that I was dead. Oh God, I'm dead. But I wasn't afraid at all. I wasn't afraid. And as the thought came in my head that I was dead, before I could even have another thought, I found myself kind of on this vehicle, a part of this vehicle, and it kind of went like this, upwards, and just shot into space. And the funny thing is that the feet were up and the head was down. So we go up feet-wise. I don't know, that's what I saw. So I just went up like a laser thingy, and next a second also is too long. Next moment in a flash, I found myself in this brilliance, this wonderful brilliance. It was nothing but light. It was the most beautiful, I can't even say beautiful, you can't describe it actually. It's just light, it's brilliance. And it was everywhere, everywhere. And I saw myself as this, maybe electricity, which is like an electric spark. So I was this electric spark, which is the soul, isn't this electric spark. And I was standing on this non-existent cloud, so to speak, and I'm jumping up and down in this nothing. And I'm saying, oh my God, I made it, I made it, I made it. I know this place, I've been here before, and I was delighted, I was thrilled, I was like, oh my God, I made it back. I was so happy, you know. And then it's like, all of a sudden, I thought, okay, I made it, and then I turned around, a non-existent shoulder. I mean, I didn't have a real shoulder, but I still had this feeling of, the body. So I kind of turned behind to see the world, or to kind of, just see or say bye-bye or whatever, because I was so happy where I was. When I turned around, there was nothing. There was nothing there. No world, no earth, no nothing. And I was like, where did it go? Where did it go? I mean, it has to be there. And then it was like, I'm asking this question of myself or the universe or the light or whatever. And the knowing, you see what happens over there is you know everything because you are the light, you are that. You don't have to ask. You see? So the question went to myself itself. That what happened? Where did it go? And the answer that came back to me was, and I said, wasn't it real? So what? And the thing came back was, sure, it existed. It was real. It was as real as your mind. It's your mind-created world. You remember we say something like, it's all in the mind. We have this expression. It's really true. We create our world. It's like an example. If there are two people sleeping on the same bed, one is having a dream and the other is having a dream. Can you get into the other person's dream? You cannot. It's impossible. Because everyone is living in their own mind-created world. You see? So that's what it is. So when you leave the body, when there's no mind, there's no world. It's as simple as that. And you come home. And it was beautiful. At that moment, I also felt, I wasn't scared at all. I felt this presence envelop me. It was the presence of love, unconditional love, which you cannot really explain in words, it's impossible. It's the love that we're all seeking outside of ourselves. Don't realize that love is us. We're only seeking ourselves. We're only looking for ourselves. It's like the musk deer. I don't know if you know about a musk deer. A deer, it has this musk at the bottom of its feet. It's hanging right here. And it's just it goes crazy with the smell of the musk. And it's running around searching for it everywhere. Not realizing that it's right under, it's within. You see, the same way, we're looking for love, we're looking for happiness, we're looking for all the things we want, we're looking for peace outside of ourselves, not realizing that this treasure chest is inside of us. People say, I want peace, I want peace, I want peace. I say to them, remove the I, which is the ego. Remove want, which is desire. What do you have left? Peace. These are the two things that are obstacles to peace. You see, it's like surrender. Surrender. Surrender because, now, the other thing I learned over there was, I had these questions. All of a sudden, when all this thing was going on, I saw from my body, there were these gross, not gross, but slightly larger particles like a nucleus, like atoms coming out from this side of this electric body that I had. And they were very fine particles coming in from this side. So what was happening was it was more like an exchange. So the gross or whatever was there within me was going out. And there was a very finer frequency coming in. My DNA was being changed. The frequency was being upped. So they were very fine particles. And at that moment, it was like my whole being was opened up. And the laws of the universe, the knowings were just pouring in, and I was just receiving. And as that was going on, one of the things that came very clearly to me, one of the knowings, and I have a book that I've written on that, ecstasy. I'll give you a CD of that today, all of you, before you leave, was that we write our own story. That is the place we have the choice. You see what happens when we leave our body and we go into that beautiful space. It's so beautiful. I would love to go back there right now. I wanted to. I didn't want to come back. And I said, no, you have to go. And I said, why? I said, because you have to do the work. And before I go further, as I said to you, I was a multi-millionaire. I was very wealthy. When I went back, I realized that this is all temporary. I had a $4 million home. I said, this is just concrete. It's bricks. Doesn't mean anything. It was a little hard for me to give it up. And I had a dream where I was shown these beautiful castles, like Disney World castles in the air. And I was flying up to them, and I couldn't leave it. And then I was told, each and every one of us has our castle. We are all princesses and princes. We're beautiful children of the universe of God. We are divine. We've forgotten that we're divine. We think we're human, we're weak, but we have all the power in us. We are so powerful. You can do anything you want. Anything. You just have to will it. It's all in the mind. You create your own world. I really mean you can do anything. Anything. I've done so much, been through so much, and then all of a sudden, if you really want to do something, that's the story you wrote for yourself. You see? So when the soul is up there, and it's in its resting period, or in a different realm, whatever you want to say, it now has, its time has come again to come back. Because basically, everything is, our actions are all karmic. We're going on and creating action. And in one lifetime, it's like a school. We come to all grade 1, grade 2, grade 3, grade 4. Every lifetime is a different grade, you see. And so in every lifetime, as we evolve, as we learn our lessons, we come back again to the higher grade and the higher grade. And then sometimes you say, you know what? I want a double promotion in this life. I want to get faster. I want to finish the game faster. When you want this double promotion, then be so powerful when you're in soul form. You say, well, you know what? I'm going to take this challenge, and I'm going to take this obstacle, and I'm going to come handicapped, and I'm going to come in this family where I'm going to have so much trouble, and I'm going to have this, and I'm going to take all kinds of stuff on you, and I'm going to make it. I'm going to go through it. And then the divine says, are you sure you can handle this? And you say, well, yes, of course. You're so powerful there. And you take it. And then the divine says to you, because he loves us so much, he says, all right, go ahead. Like you would say to your child, go and play, but I'm watching over you. And then you say, if you get into trouble, if you feel that you can't handle it, call me. And that's when we pray. And that's when we ask for. Don't ask for your obstacle or your pain to be removed. Don't ask for it. Because you've got to pay a debt. You'll have to pay it in the next life. If I may very humbly suggest, ask for the strength to deal with it. Because then you're done and you can move on, you see. So he says, all right, pray to me. Pray and I will shower grace. And what is that? That is, let's say if you want to cross the street and it starts raining. You're wearing this wonderful dress and your hair is all done and you don't want it to get spoiled, right? Oh God, I have to cross the road to go to wherever you're going. So you pray and someone comes and hands you an umbrella. There you go. You cross the street, you don't get wet, and you cross the street in the rain. The same way, when you pray, God comes and hands you the umbrella. So you go through your pain, you go through your suffering, but you don't feel it. You just get teeny, you just get a little wet. And I'll tell you something, pain is your best friend, it's your best teacher. I welcome pain, because pain brings out character. Pain brings out the strength inside of us, which we didn't know existed. Pain is fantastic. And later when you go through the pain, it's awful. But when you come out of it, I'm sure all of you must have gone through it many times in your life. You say,
wow, I didn't even know I could do that. I didn't know I had this in me. But you see, you will, because you wrote your story. You wrote it. You wrote that you want to go through this pain. So don't run away from it. You can do it. Just roll up your sleeves and say, you know what? I'm going to deal with you because I know I can do it. Otherwise you wouldn't be coming to me. Don't be afraid. There's no such thing as fear. Fear is just false experience appearing as reality. Fear is not real. Fear is only the mind. Fear is ego. Ego telling you, you can't do it, you can't do it. And your conscience says, you can, but voice is very soft. But the mind and your fear and your ego, because it doesn't want to, it wants to be in control of you. So anyway, these are some of the things that, I got from there. And the other thing, the most important thing that I got from there is that, so I asked her, I said, tell me about 3 minutes before I'm ending. About 20 minutes, what's the time right now? Oh, I'm so sorry, I didn't realize. Okay, I'll finish in about 2 minutes. What I wanted to say, just to finish with this, so sorry, is that I asked to be reminded, but no one did, so I thought I had time. The most important thing that I learned and I know is that we are love. We are nothing but love. You are love. And there is nothing that exists in this universe except love. That's all we bring and that's all we take. So please, just be in that love mode. Be happy. Give out love. And God is love. You are love, love, and nothing but love. So I'll pass it on to her.
I'm actually going to stand up. It's just easier for me. When I was age 4, age 3, around age 3, I drowned in a pool. And I'm actually going to talk about that a little bit. Just came to talk about that. And so at this young age, I also had a different experience when I was a young adult. I was upset over breaking up with a girlfriend and also some other issues with some medicine and some other things. I became depressed, and through that, before attempting suicide, I was told that God could take away my pain. And then I had a marvelous experience where that was taken away, and then my life started anew. And then about 15 years ago, I was traveling on a business trip from Palm Springs, California to Provo, Utah, where I lived at that time. And someone was driving with me, and when we traded, I was asleep and he fell asleep, and I ended up being ejected in a rollover. And I'll talk about that in a moment, but it's coming up to talk about my first experience. So as I was a child, I didn't know how to swim yet. I was about age 3 as best that I could have an idea. I just knew it was summertime in California. When I was a child, we lived in the hills of Los Angeles. And my father was a policeman, and my mother was a homemaker. And we had a neighbor who was also a policeman. And he had a pool in his front yard. And that was really unusual. It was unusual that he had a pool and also in his front yard. And all I can remember about that day is that my father was playing with my siblings in the pool. My mom didn't know how to swim. She grew up in Salt Lake City, Utah, where they could go out and float in the lake. So there was no reason to learn to swim. And she was just sitting up above. And as I went around the edge of the pool, the next thing I knew, I slipped underwater. And I can distinctly remember the bubbles coming out of my mouth. And I was just like suspended. I was about 6 feet underwater. And the next thing I knew, I was in this beautiful place. It was like I was in this big, huge arena. And when I looked down, I could see stars everywhere. And there were these big columns around the arena. And the next thing I knew, I was sitting on my Heavenly Father's lap. And my Heavenly Father was talking to me about how my earth life had been difficult. I had been in the hospital my first 2 years of life, all right. And I was filled with His love. And when I looked just to the right of Him, there was my Heavenly Mother. And I knew that she loved me very much. And I saw full beings, and they were both filled with light. They both looked really young. They looked like maybe in their mid-20s. And I knew they loved me. They both were white. They both had white robes on. I saw their full detail. And the next thing I know, next to them was someone I knew who was my older brother. And I knew him to be Jesus. And he started, the next thing I knew, I was standing in front of him. And off onto the right of him was a big screen. And it was see-through. I could see Earth in the background. I saw all these other beautiful planets. That these planets are not in our galaxy. There are colors like purple, and green, and there were big stars everywhere. And as Jesus was talking to me about my life and about my family, everything was in color. And when I was a child, we only had black and white TVs. And so I was just going, oh my gosh, this is really cool. And as he was talking to me, it's like the Earth came up, almost like what we have Google Earth today. And it came up and it zoomed in. And I was traveling very fast. And at one point, we zoomed in on, I lived on a circle on top of this hill. And where we lived was at the beginning of the circle, and this pool was about halfway around. And when it was getting closer, I could still see my body in the pool. Like it was just sitting there suspended. For some reason, that is really funny to me. And here we are, he's talking to me, and he did a close-up of my father. He said, this is the family you chose to come down to. And he was telling me that I could choose to stay where I was. And it was a beautiful place. And I knew that place to be heaven. And as he was talking to me, there was a close-up on my mom and how I chose these parents. And then a close-up on my sister and then my brother. And as soon as something just clicked inside me, and I said, I choose to go back. And in that moment, there were 2 teenage girls laying out by the pool. And all of a sudden I heard them say, where's Brian? And in that moment, literally, it was just, I was back in my body and they pulled me out of the pool. And that kind of ended my recollection. A few years later, I went to talk to my mom about this experience I had because I wanted to share it with her. And I said, do you remember when I drowned in the pool? She said, well, you never drowned. So I went, oh, well, okay, I just kind of walked away. And then several years later, I went back and we had a different conversation, and I just learned to approach it differently. And I was always able to share with my mom about these experiences, but she was the only one. I've never really told my siblings or anyone else. And it wasn't until I was a teenager, I read a book called Closer to the Light, which talks about children's near-death experiences. And a pediatrician who was their doctor, they started sharing with him. And when I read that book, I went, oh my gosh, I had this experience. And I later did contact him, though I never heard back. I'll fast forward. So in 1999, I was coming back from this business training I'd been to, and my doctor happened to be there. And so I woke up after I left the vehicle. I woke up in the hospital 10 days later. And I didn't know why I was there. I had an experience, though, that I'll briefly share, that I was having kind of a dream nightmare experience. Part of the dream was I was in this beautiful heavenly place. And I was actually sitting up in a very tall tree. And everything was very green and the sky was very blue. And everything talked to me. I knew that everything loved me. The tree loved me. The grass loved me and the blue sky loved me. Everything was energy, but everything was love all at the same time. And then I was having this nightmare that I was in a hospital, hooked up to machines, and that nurses were kind of yelling at me. They're saying, "Who are you?" And I would say, "Well, if you don't know who I am, what am I doing here? Where do you live?" "I don't know where I live," you know. So they were kind of, I couldn't answer their questions because I really didn't know. Didn't know my name, didn't know so many things. So when I woke up in the hospital, I realized, uh-oh, here's my reality. And that other part of me was in a different place. And so lo and behold, as I woke up and started becoming conscious, I started remembering being in another place. I do have a slight remembrance of the car, I call it my car learning experience, where I had a remembrance of being very high up in the sky, and I knew that was my spirit when it left my body. And I saw the vehicle rolling across the dirt. Because basically what happened is the car was headed northbound. It went off to the right. The driver woke up, I was asleep. The car spun, and when it hit the center, we were facing southbound. And it flipped, and then I went out. And I've had some remembrances since then that when my body left the vehicle, my body actually saw my spirit in the sky. My body thought that it was going into the dirt. Because there's just something inherent that I know that my body and other bodies know, that when our spirit leaves it, we go into the dirt, we go back to the dust. So when I woke up in the hospital, my body was really happy. Because it was like, oh my gosh, you know, my spirit's back in it, and I'm not in the dirt anymore. So one of the other things I'll share is that when I showed up on the other side, many of my relatives were there, grandparents, great-grandparents. My father had already passed. And my relatives would hug me. They'd say, "I love you." And then they said, like, "What are you doing here? It's not your time yet." And I had that on both sides of my family. It was like a repeat. "What are you doing?" "I don't know what I'm doing here." It's like, okay, I'm here. You know. And one of the things that happened though is that both sides of my family, my mother's side and my father's side, they were off in the distance. I could see them, so they'd hug me, and then they'd go off in the distance, and I kept going to follow them. And I distinctly remember one great-grandmother stopping me and saying, "I love you, but you can't go where I'm going. She says, just go with your guide that's over there." And just behind me was a man, a being of light, and I knew who he was. He was called my guide, and he was just waiting for me to be done with this like reception line. And I do remember keep attempting to go, and both sides of my family were creating circles off in the distance. And I couldn't figure out why I couldn't go there. You know, I kept going and they'd stop me, go over there. And my last experience is kind of in three parts. There's the part where I showed up on the other side, and then there's a middle part that I'm still remembering, and then there's an end part that I totally remember. And one of the things I know in the third part, I got to have a conversation with my father. And later at another part of my life, I got to remember that connection I've had with my father. And then I remembered coming back to Earth, which is, and part of this remembering is like I can remember an experience of being in the top of a hospital room, and my guide's with me, and he's telling me it's time to go back in your body, and my body was hooked up to machines. I had a head injury and a broken leg, broken femur. And I saw my body and I said, well, that's not me. I'm not going back into that. It's kind of like that slice of It's a Wonderful Life. And that's what I look at. And we were talking, saying, no, you agreed. You made the choice. I said, well, hey, that's not me, and let's go back. Let's go back and talk to God, and we're going to make a new agreement because that's not me. So I was really adamant, and he was kind of saying, well, time's running out. If you don't go back, your body's going to die. You know, well, I'm alive, I'm here. And so he basically said, why don't you go around through the hospital and see if you can find yourself. And when you find your body, I'll be right here, you come back and get me. And I remember actually wandering through the hospital. This hospital is in Provo, Utah. And it wasn't later on when they first got me on my feet. One of the things that happened was that anything I've ever done physically, I've had to relearn to do. One of the things that happened is that my physical memory was wiped, and because of the head injury that I sustained, when I got to a care facility, they gave me like blocks, like a circle, a square, and a triangle. And when they handed me the blocks, I couldn't fit it in there. And it was just a couple minutes that my therapist said, let's put that down and we'll go do something else. I said, great. So I had some issues with my brain, and when they got me up the first time, I only walked about 5 steps. Because it, being 6 feet tall, it was pretty scary getting up on my feet and not knowing how to walk. And I remember walking as a child and playing sports, but this was totally new. And there was another room. And when I got to the room, when I looked this way, I remember seeing the beds from this point of view, and I knew what was going on with every patient. It's like I had read their charts, and I just knew what was going on with them, even though I just looked to the side. And then that's when I started this remembering process. And eventually, I remembered a lot what happened through my doctor, and also through various healers, because I've had some trauma. And eventually I was shown exactly what happened. And one of the things, and I'm gonna end with this, is that I distinctly remember back in Palm Springs, before I left, that I had received a prompting to not go, to stay in the hospital, to stay in the hotel one more day. I had the next day off. And the person who was driving with me, one of the things I didn't know is that he'd not slept in days. He'd like stayed up with his business conference. And he convinced me to go on the trip. And I know because of that one decision that I ended up having a traumatic brain injury. I got to learn to walk, many things. And so what it has taught me, it taught me to listen, to trust the promptings I receive, and then to act. And I know that anyone who's had any traumatic issues in their life, that what I've learned, that as I listen, make better choices, have allowed me to become a conscious creator and live a better life.
Wonderful, Brian. You see, there's only love.
Yeah, there is.
There's only love, you know, and that's why we search for it all the time, because we know who we are and we just can't find it. We look for it everywhere else. So now we have about 10 minutes, right? 10 or 15 minutes. I'd like to put it out to questions and answers. Can you pass them a mic, somebody? Yeah.
Question for you.
Okay.
When you came back, you didn't tell that if the body was there or not.
Okay, you want to know the return? Okay, I'll tell you as quickly as I can because I want everyone to
Because
I didn't speak about it because I didn't want to take any more time. I was already over time. So I'll tell you very quickly, because basically what happened was I saw a lot more over there. And then, I said to myself, where do I go from here? Where do I go from here? And then I was told, as I said, that you have to go back. And I said, I don't want to go back. And then all of a sudden, see, when I died, and there are differences. A lot of people go through what Brian has gone through, and they see their family members who have passed down, and they're told that it's not your time. So he's totally right in that. Mine was a little different. I bypassed the whole thing because I was very spiritually. So I bypassed. I just went straight to the light, basically. And so
I was only seeing this white brilliance, and then all of a sudden this white brilliance, I saw like a, like an umbilical cord, like a tunnel, but it was an umbilical cord, and I could see inside it. And I saw this little fetus, this little newborn baby curled up. And it was, just like a baby, the head down and the feet up. And I looked at it and I said, oh no, not again. I knew that was me. And I saw myself speeding down this cord, and I was like, oh no, I really didn't want to come back. I was so happy there. And next minute, I opened my eyes. I was sitting in the car, and I screamed. I cried out because my lower gum had broken, my lower 4 teeth had come out, and they were hanging in my throat with the nerves. And it was all, I was bleeding. I was a lot of blood, but I didn't have any pain. There was no pain whatsoever. It was a two-seater convertible, so the door was jammed on my side. My secretary, thank God, she was wearing a seatbelt. She got concussion. She was going, like that. And I just came out, and there was a lady, it was in the suburbs, so one lady heard the crash. She came running out, and she saw all the blood. She said, oh my God. She ran back into her house, and she got me this ice pack. Put it on your mouth, put it on your mouth. And I said, okay. I put it on my mouth, and then I said, no, give it back to her. She says, what? I said, and I could speak with the tongue. Teeth are very important to tongue to speaking. I was blubbering, I was saying no pain, like that. I was saying no pain. She says, how can that be? Your mouth is broken. You know, even get a little scratch on our lips, how much it hurts. There's no pain. Because I was still in that consciousness. I had not come into body consciousness. God was so kind. Till the police came, till the ambulance came. I was taken to a San Dimas County hospital. And I put out a bowl of blood for almost like 2 hours because it was Saturday night. The surgeon was out, So till he came, there was no pain. That's what it is. So pain is also in the mind. You can overcome pain. You see? Does it answer your question?
Yeah, I do. But most of the time, if people come and they say when they come back, they know that when they go back. It comes like that?
Well, to different people. For me, yes. I know my whole future. And when I came back, I had siddhis. I had powers. I could heal people. I've healed tumors from people's head. I just put my hand on them and the tumors would disappear. Ash was coming out of my fingers. I was clairvoyant. I could do a lot of stuff. And I could travel. My DNA was way more than 2 strands. And then I didn't know how to handle it. So I prayed and I said, I don't want it right now. I'm not ready. So I put it on the side. But now, since the last 6 months, I know that it's time. So it's coming. I'm getting it back. It was there, but I'm kind of opening the chest slowly, getting one little thing at a time. And I did have a multi-faith sanctuary in California for 5 years, where a lot of people were helped, and it's time to start it again. So I'm going to start it wherever it takes me. I don't question. I don't think. I just follow whatever comes in, downloads. That's what.
Where do you live now?
I'm about 6 months in California and 6 months in Delhi, and also in Sai Baba's ashram. I just finished building a world-class recording studio and doing some projects, giving drinking water to the villagers. They didn't have water. So I was just trying to install some water plants for them to drink. So I'm just doing that right now. I'm doing some spiritual counseling wherever I go, and it's all free. I don't charge anything. I don't, money in me, I don't want anything. I'm just, like I say to whoever comes to me, I said, you know what? I'm an ocean of love. Take it. I'm full of love. Just take. I'm here to give. I don't want anything from you. Nothing. What can you give me? But I can give it to you because I've received it. And I've received it not for myself. I've received it for you and you and you. Because the only thing we can really give is love. That's the only thing that belongs to us. Otherwise, we come empty-handed. We go empty-handed. Love is the only thing that we own. Right?
Question for Brian. Brian, where are you now?
Well, I live in Lehigh, Utah, and while I like to travel a lot, like I'm in India, but that's mainly where I stay. That's where I work, and I also have a holistic healing practice that I do.
I meant, where are you now with yourself and your
my
spirit?
healing practice. I would say I'm like The only really things that I deal with, occasionally I have some trauma in my life, and I just go to different healers to take care of that. But I would just am like 99%. I've relearned so many things. You know, people can't even tell now that I have those injuries. And I'm finishing up a book right now about my experience. You're welcome.
Any more questions? Come on.
I'll ask a question.
Sure.
So part of what I've heard, but I've never had a near-death experience, is that often they're different and so many are the same, and that often our predisposed beliefs have an effect on the near-death experience, what you expect a lot of times you experience. What's your feelings on that?
Well, for me, you may be right, very much so, but for me personally, that wasn't the case. I went with a completely, I think what may have happened is that there may be a few things that got confirmed, you know, like reincarnation, because I'm born in India, so, you know, we believe in reincarnation. And so I almost saw, not as a picture, but as a knowing my past lives. I know many of them now. And I also knew for sure that we do come back. You know, it's like a change of clothes, like in Buddhism. As you grow older, you know, as your clothes get older, you change them. So we come every time with a new body, with a new role, with a new drama that we've written. And we play, we're like 007s, we're 009s, we come with our own script, you know. And so maybe a few things, but in general, because here's the reason why I say that, is because before I died, I was religious. But when I came back, I became totally spiritual. For me, there is no religion, because religion is man-made. You know, I'm also minister of the ecumenical. When I went back to California, I was ordained and studied world religion for a year at World University in Ojai. And because all religion is man-made, religious love, dear God, that's all it is. So I don't feel that before I died, when I came back.
So for me, it's totally different because I've had 3 different experiences. My experience when I was a young child, I wasn't taught religion in the home. I do have a background. My father is Jewish and my mother was LDS, or Latter-day Saint, or known as Mormon. But my mother wasn't actively practicing, even though my father agreed to raise the kids LDS. Religion really wasn't discussed in the home. I was expected to go to church and learn it. And at that young age, I wasn't going to church. And then my other experience later on, at that time in my life, I was living a religious life. But the experience on the other side has been totally different. Seeing my Heavenly Father, my Heavenly Mother, and Jesus. Heavenly Father and Jesus is talked about, but not Heavenly Mother. And I know my Heavenly Mother, and I know that she loves me. And because I've had that experience more than once, the first 2 experiences were sort of similar, except in my second experience, I was shown so much more. I was shown a lot of people that I'd meet in my future life. I was told many things. And I got to converse and see my father, and we had a totally different experience, as well as some of my relatives who had passed on. And then my last experience, because it's in 3 parts, and I know that I'm still remembering that second part. I know I actually went and talked before councils, and I was specific, that's what the guide and I talked about. Before you can go, I said, let's go back and talk to those councils. I want to make a new choice. And he went, no, you made your choice, you know. So we were kind of having a discussion, because, you know, and eventually I did go back. But, so there's still a lot of things about that. So that's why I look at it, I had 3 different experiences. And my what I knew from religion had nothing to do with those experiences.
So, I can talk really loud. So I'm putting something together here, a couple of common things between the two of you, and that is that you're both now healers. You both have additional gifts. You both obviously have more intuition. You also have what I've heard you both, because I've been hanging out with Brian a little bit. I've heard him use a phrase that I'm familiar with, which is downloads and information. So I'm sure you're around a lot of people who have also had near-death experiences, or when they hear that you have, they come and talk to you. In your experience, does it seem like those are common things for most people who have near-death experiences?
Yes, I actually do hang out with a lot of people in Utah. There's a chapter called IANS, which is International Association of Near-Death Studies. And before my last experiences, I was hanging out with quite a few people, and then I disappeared for a couple of years. And when I went back, they said, "Where have you been?" And I said, "Well, I had another experience, and I've been healing." So, and yes, that is very similar.
With mine, actually, I had this experience in 1994, and I've also had a couple of major out-of-body and 2 more death experiences, which I won't go into. But basically, what I wanted to say was that, what was the question again? I'm sorry.
Just is that common with other?
Yes, exactly. So just about 2 years ago, I discovered a website. It's called nderf.org, Near Death Experience Research Foundation in the US. And someone asked me to put my story over there, and I did. And then I found that there are almost 4,000 to 5,000 Indians. It's a fabulous website. It's run by Jody Long. She's a great person. And they have a forum, a lot of questions and answers. So yes, reading so many other experiences. See, one of the things I saw that was most common was the love factor. The love factor, the light factor, and many people met Jesus and other gods and deities and their parents and grandfather, and some like myself just bypassed. And I feel that I went to Satyaloka, Brahmaloka, which is like the highest realm, because when I came back, my frequency was so fine, you can't even imagine. You know, for 2 years, I was literally walking in the 5th dimension. I wasn't even here. I could almost feel my fingers going through the wall, literally, because everything was light to me. Nothing was material, nothing was gross, you know. And I could just leave my body in a second. In seconds, I would leave my body, you know. And I would travel around, heal people, and come back. I would just do that all the time. Then it was like too much. So yeah, there are some things that are very common, and some things that are unique to one of us, depending on our karmas, our deeds, and you know, our level of involvement, basically. Yeah.
Is that another common trait, multiple near-death experiences, because you both had more than one?
Maybe, maybe not. Depends.
Most people just have one. I've only met one other person who's had more than 2, and they've had 4. But it has a lot to do with our choices. I mean, for me, my last one was a major wake-up call. Because I knew if anything else was going to happen, I might not be able to walk the talk. And for me, that's a miracle in and of itself.
So I have a question now, you guys. Remember I asked you a question right in the beginning? Why did you come? Do you think you had a choice? Do you think you had a choice now? You've written your story. You see, what happens is that when we come into this world, we forget because it's so beautiful and all that. And so in our story, we put some little red flags, reminders, that when I'm getting tuned this way, give me a hit, wake up call, wake up, you know, drink coffee or whatever. So my very humble thought is that this was your red flag. Maybe you're coming here, come for this talk.
I'm supposed to meet you. Yes.
Absolutely. I
Do you
think,
feel that?
yes, I do. I've been watching you.
I know that.
I know. Yeah.
We're going to talk right
I know.
And I was supposed to meet Brian today too.
Yes.
I did not know that Brian's story.
Yes.
So we have a couple little stories.
I'm sure. There are a few people here. There are a couple of them. You too. There are a couple of people that are connecting with me, and I can. You, the green. I know. I know it. It's just like, you know. So yes, you did. You too. we put these reminders, these flags for ourselves. Like, oh God, okay, when I'm going like this, I want to go here and just, and then you know. So that's what it is.
I had a near-death experience too when I was 25. Okay. Car accident. Okay. And I went much faster in a sense. I saw what was going to happen. Because when I was crossing the street, something kept my feet. I couldn't move. So it was one red light, one car coming, and the red light. And I said, "Is going to hit me?" And before he hit me, I saw myself go on and see everything that happened. And it became light and became eyes. And then the voice came, "Go back, go back." That's right. The body looked so small down. And so when the light entered, thin like a hair, all I said is, "No, no, no." I didn't want to go back. It was so beautiful up there. But then a man was holding me, and I grabbed his jacket and opened my eyes, and I just said, "I believe in God, I believe in God, I believe in God." And he said, "All right, woman, just shut up." I believe in God, just shut up. I couldn't stop saying, "I believe in God, I believe in God." Until then,
Because you were with God, in God, and so you're just coming back with God.
went into coma after that. So that is true. True of me.
I'd like to share a really quick story. I just remembered if we have time. If anyone has questions, then I won't share it. But I was getting really serious headaches in like 4 or 5 months later. You have a question? Okay, so I knew the neurosurgeon in Fremont Hospital, Washington Hospital in Fremont. I called him up, Moses tidy up. I said, "Moses, I'm getting terrible headaches. Come for an MRI." Went for an MRI. And as I was going for the MRI, I said to God, I said, "You're the only one who's in my head. I think of you all the time, but how I wish I could see you in my head." Just a casual thought. I forgot all about it. MRI was done. I was leaving. And the technician comes to me. They never say this. He says, "Would you like to see what's in your head?" And I said, "Yeah." Because I've just been speaking of that. I wish I brought that extra, the MRI. And so he started showing me, sat on the computer and said, "Oh, this is your cerebellum and cerebellum, whatever, And I said, yeah, that's nice. And then all of a sudden I totally froze. I said, "Stop, look. And he said, "Oh my God." And what I saw, I wish I had brought it, was Christ on the cross, right in the center of my head. He's right there. And not only that, the little hole on the top of the cross was there. And and you can see his eyes, you can see his beard, and he's smiling, not smiling, but you can see him. And he says, "This is a piece of art." And I said, no, it's more than that. And then I asked him for a copy. They don't give it in the US, but he was very sweet. I said, "Robert, chocolates." He's all right. He gave me the MRI. I took it home. And about a week later, I kept looking at it more and more. And as I saw it in the light, I saw not only Christ, I saw a few of the Durga, Kali. I saw Ganesha. Very clearly you can see him. And I saw another face. You can see the eyes, the smile. It's so real, it's kind of scary. All the gods, all the divine beings are within us. And I have a fantastic MRI to prove it. And it's just as my head. They're in your head too. Because we are God. And it's in whatever forms we believe in. Because I went to a convent school. I went to church every day. I have my Bible, So I believe in Christ and Krishna. They're both the same to me. Krishna taught Christ in school. And then I went into Buddhism and So what I'm trying to say is that if you could just believe that you are God, just say, "I am God." I'm not egotistically that I'm God, you know what I mean? But I am divine, I'm good, I'm good, I'm good. Just say that. He says it all the time, huh? Yeah. There you go. Confirmation, big time. Yeah. We are about to Any last question? Anyone? Yeah. Well, I love you. You're beautiful. Thank you so much for coming. Thank you. Thank you.
And I would request that you listen to them with an earphone with beautiful music.
it's nice otherwise, but when you give it to him, it's like, very well. Okay. Let me give you one point. Yeah, the video is coming right after. Just one second. Just so I should just give you the slide over there.
That was awesome.
Just go grab it.
Oh, I released that. When I'm supposed to work, you never know later. Okay. Yeah, do you? Okay. That's okay. We'll be around.
Maybe I was session because
NBC today had wanted to interview with me for this thing, but I was climbing the mountains and I was going to some mountain over there that I may go for it again. So if I do, maybe I'll call you guys and
I will. Yes, I have to look this up. And there's
so happy. Thank you so much.
yeah, there's
I see that. Yeah. Wow. That is such a so serious.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, that's right. Okay. It came out. Can I get one?
Sure. Because you have that experience that you can feel that you know that. Okay. You want to link you.
That's what you for me, so the next I know.
Yeah.
सामान सारा ले जाओ
So yeah, let's go.
केबल जी ऊपर ले जाओ ठीक है ये केबल ऊपर ले जाओ ठीक है उन्होंने कहा नहीं
I am. That's the word I have. I gave
Got
you
it.
the word. Yeah. So,
The reason why you name yourself, you name yourself. See, our parents don't name us. We have already chosen the name. Absolutely. Everything, every little detail, you have chosen. The pain, the gain, the heartache, the troubles, everything you've chosen. Because you are strong enough to say, this life, I'm going to go through that stuff. There you go. It's the same. You know what I mean? But he, because I love him, he kind of sifted out, and made it easier, right? That's it. How can you not be going here? Because he's coming to, maybe you need to react to Jaksha. Get the real ask him, you should receive. Believe he's with you, he's coming to you, come on. He's calling you. You know, he wants you to go a little bit more on spiritual level. I see in your eyes that you are very spiritual. So, whether you believe it or not, you know that part. So you want to just get a nice ask him to guide you. Then you hold the ball and then speak. Just get you are very sensitive. Just get an ordinary and then you just sit on the as you wish, no restrictions, no rules, don't put any restrictions. As and when you will. Who you are? Praise God, praise God.
It's nice to see you here.
You know each other?
Yeah, she's our all-day captain.
Okay, well, I'm so glad to
So you might be around the near another session on investors.
Is it surprising?
On that session, this is really investment.
This is, yes.
And this is
an investment in you.
No, that session got cancelled and I had my mom was there. And I thought this is the one.
Came to the wrong call, the right one.
Yeah, and I didn't see my mom as if I was I go or something.
That kind of interested you.
Okay.
I don't know if you were here when I said that you put out these flags for yourself.
Yeah.
So you had put out the flag, and Shiva said, you see all these Rudraksha are ready. Shiva said, chalo, come on, let me take you somewhere. So this was your flag. You had to speak to me, I had to tell you to get the mala, to do the job. Just do it. Do it. This is your friend. God of a pedestal.
Madam.
I love someone to say you're beautiful. Right? This is the only one who can do everything for you. Just ask advice from somebody else. They're going to give you something